Police officers are protectors, peacekeepers. They keep order. They have the power to lock up the bad people to benefit the good and make the world a better place. However, many officers abuse the power that's given to them. Excessive force is the most reported type of misconduct that a police officer can commit. For a long time now, the public's view on police has been drastically split. Some love and respect them, while others just think of them as pigs. In a recent survey done on police officers, 25% have witnessed fellow officers harassing a citizen, most likely because of their race. 49% of police officers feel that the only way a criminal would receive any punishment was to punish the individual him or herself. And a whopping 84% of police officers have witnessed a fellow officer use more force than necessary in order to make an arrest.
Police brutality is a huge problem in the U.S. I do think cops are out there for good reasons, but a lot of them do take advantage of their power, and especially with the younger generation, a lot of the younger generation, they don't know their rights, their laws. For example, our Fourth Amendment right, it's unlawful searches and seizures, and sometimes they just really want to catch someone. Or I could understand finding out and stopping the crimes, but it's not right to violate our rights.
I think police brutality is a problem in some places. It certainly depends on how you define police brutality, but I think that you can say that there are certain police practices that have a disparate impact on different communities. I don't know of allegations of police brutality, for example, in Trumbull, but certainly we've seen a lot of examples throughout the United States in some of the major cities where it is an issue.
Well, actually, I don't think ethnicity is a contributing factor, but people make it that way because, for example, in Baltimore, people who are rioting, they're not born that way. They learn it because, in the end, we're all human. We all have our 2 legs, 2 arms, and I think it's just a clash of cultural differences. But when it comes to ethnicity, we're not born to be, I guess you could say, violent and discriminative against each other. We should all work together.
It is in some places, so like my previous answer, it all depends, but I can cite an example. In New York City, they used a program called Stop and Frisk. And Stop and Frisk basically allows you just to stop any person who's doing something reasonably suspicious, and you stop them and you can frisk them. Over the course of 2001 through 2010, the number of stop and frisks went from something like 50,000 to 1 million. And of those numbers, 80 to 90% of them were people of color. So clearly there's a bias, at least in the case of stop and frisk in New York City. I can't say across the board, across the nation, but that's one concrete example that you can point to.
We sat down with former Greenwich cop John Woodward to hear his opinion on the matter.
I was a police officer for 23 years. In that time, I've seen force use everything from using your voice to tell someone to stop doing something all the way up to having to take a gun out and using that. In my experience, I've never seen in my department, but that does occur. You can't say it doesn't. I think every organization has, unfortunately, an element that might do those things and resort to those things. I do believe it does exist. In my time in my department, I never saw that. What I saw was guys trying to be professional. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it comes up to the edge of what people would say is brutality, but it's not. Sometimes that job can be brutal. Sometimes people give you no choice and you have to react to it. Okay, but there's always a level of professionalism, and there's a line that you're never supposed to cross.
Smartphone cameras have been capturing officer after officer using excessive force against people they had no business using excessive force against. And for every incident caught on camera, there are countless other cases that no one has heard about because no one was there to record it. So to fight the perception that cops are just out-of-control bullies, More and more police departments have been requiring their officers to wear body cameras on the job.
It's a first in law enforcement in St. Tammany Parish. Every member of the Covington Police Department is receiving a new piece of equipment, a body camera.
And the data shows that cameras are working. A study of police in California shows some pretty good results. When officers wear cameras, they use force less than half as often. Bullies aren't going to be bullies when their every move is being recorded. Now, one of these body cameras costs well under $1,000, and you may think that's a lot of money per cop, but it's a good investment when you consider that an average police officer makes around $50,000 a year. What's another $1,000 to make sure they're doing their job right all the time? President Obama has tried to convince Congress to buy 50,000 cameras and get them where they're needed most across the country as soon as possible. But he's run into resistance from the Republican-controlled Congress to spend new money to purchase them.
Recently, Hillary Clinton has stated that she believes every police department in the United States should be equipped with body cameras.
So I think body cameras on police officers are actually a great idea because it gives an equal share of knowledge to everyone of what's going on, and it's also decreasing the amount of times that police officers could actually take advantage of their power. It's always good to have things on record.
I think it would. I think a person who's wearing a body camera would react differently. Even in teaching, I say things in a classroom that would be probably wouldn't fly very well in the public, right, if they saw what I was saying. So if you had a camera on me at all times, I probably would change my behavior. But my guess is as a teacher, I'd be a much less interesting teacher, and as a cop, I would imagine I'd be a much more cautious cop. And sometimes we don't want the cops to be overly cautious, right? So I think that, you're going to have a reduction in police brutality, but I think with that will come a cost, that the cops are going to be acting as though they're on camera all the time, which they are.
You know, technology catches up with everything. I think that as more things become available in police work, I think there are going to be good sides to that. And I think body cameras are a good step. As long as the context, people have to understand that even when you have a record or document of what you're seeing, if you don't understand the context of what you're seeing, that could be a problem. So yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think both police and communities will work to make that work, okay? But it has to be taken in the context of what you're seeing. Sometimes you and I might see the same incident. I might have been trained to do something and you don't understand why I'm doing it that way. So as long as those explanations are made and people can accept and understand what that is, I think it's a great idea.
Not all cops are bad, but many of them are. And if every cop in the country had a body camera, we are positive that the amount of police brutality in the US would decrease. Every problem has a solution, and the solution to police brutality is body cameras.